the last few years. So let's get you a Frozen Four preview for the Maize and Blue. Let's talk to former Michigan hockey coach Red Berenson, and we do have him. So let's go south down to the Frozen Four and welcome in former Michigan hockey coach Red Berenson. Yes. Red, it's good to talk with you. How's Florida?
Well, it's hot and a lot different in the climate in Detroit that I left yesterday. So I guess it's good, and it works for hockey down here. So there's going to be sold out tonight. The fans are flocking in from all over, and a lot of energy in the area right now.
Yeah, they're no stranger down there to high-profile games. Nice rink, nice weather, 92 degrees. I got to ask you about this particular team. They went to the Frozen Four last year. A lot of people were expecting the team to get there, but I don't know about this year's team, especially with a new coach. How surprised are you that this team is in the Frozen Four?
Well, I'm not surprised because it was a matter of if the young players could come in and make an impact. And obviously, the freshmen on Michigan's team, led by Adam Fantilli, have really set the tone. And probably the number one line is all freshmen. And so the freshmen have produced. Could Portillo come back and give them good enough goalkeeping if they made some mistakes? And so far the answer is yes. And of course, with the new coach coming in, there was a question as to whether he could get the team playing the right way and get them playing hard every night. And I think Brandon Naurato has answered that question. So it's been a year of question marks, but here they are. They won the Big Ten playoff championship game in Minnesota against a great Minnesota team. And even in the Big Ten playoffs, the showdown game against Ohio State at Yost was another great effort by this team. So they're on a run. They played well against Colgate, and then they won in overtime against Penn State, who's really much improved this year. So they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really good games, and I think they're ready for this match. Now they don't know much about Quinnipiac, but they're the best defensive team in the country. Is Quinnipiac? So it'll be offense against defense tonight.
Yeah, and all those things that you went over, of course, Brandon Naurato, he's obviously a story to talk about, one of the big storylines. But, if you're a Michigan hockey fan, I think you have to feel good. You mentioned they look like they're playing their best hockey of the season, but, 11-1 against Colgate. But, well, I guess it was 10 days ago that they played in Allentown and beat Penn State. They were up against it in that game, a 2-1 game. Michigan wins it in overtime, but they were down 1-0 in the third period, and they needed 2 big saves. They needed a big goal, and then obviously they got it in overtime. I mean, that's good experience. Like if they were rolling, 5-1, 11-1, you might say, okay, now it's going to be a different game. But I think that bodes well for them. What about you?
I think they have to expect to play in a close game. And really, Colgate came in with a Notre Dame-like image that they were hard to beat if they got the lead, and they were very stingy defensively. But it turned out to be one of those games where the puck started to go in for Michigan, and they tore Colgate apart. But the Penn State game, as you said, it was a classic Big Ten game of importance to both teams, and Michigan came out ahead. But you have to be a little bit lucky that time of year. And they were. But like you say, it's good experience. They'll have a close game against Quinnipiac. I don't think anyone's got the upper hand. And they're going to have to be really good defensively and capitalize on all their chances offensively.
Brandon Naurato was asked in his news conference about the time that he played in the Frozen Four, and he went up against North Dakota. And he said he referenced a similar dynamic because there was 11 freshmen on that team. Led by Pacioretty, Hagelin for Michigan. I wonder, when you have that many freshmen, is there things like you always say in big games about first goal or momentum late in the first period or something like that? When you have so many young players, they count on the freshmen so much. Is there anything that when you have a young team like that, those things that get tossed about in big games about first goal that you think would be important?
Well, I think this team has built a certain level of expectation for themselves as a group, and especially for the freshmen. The freshmen have earned it. They've earned their status. They've earned their stats. They've earned their accolades that they've received, whether it's all Big Ten or Rookie of the Year or whatever. And so they expect to do well. And so I would say their confidence is strong. They know they can come from behind, and they know they can take a team down if they get going. And so it'll be a good game. Now that doesn't mean it's not going to be a close game, but the Big Ten has been a great conference this year, and you've seen how the Big Ten teams handled the regionals, and they were good, and they were better than good, and so we're used to that. I would say Michigan is ready for anything. Now that doesn't exclude a game that could go either way, but they played in games like that all year, and let's face it, there's no better team in the country than Minnesota. And if Michigan can play with Minnesota the way they did, then they should be able to play with Quinnipiac as well. They'll be ready.
Yeah, we'd like to see Michigan play Minnesota on Saturday night. Now, Naurato also said, I was looking at some of his quotes from the year, and with him being an interim, he said if he coaches 20 or 30 years, he'll look back and he'll say this was the hardest season. He's got a young team. He's a young coach, but he played for you for 4 years. The obvious question is it a surprise that did you see like some like a coach of the future when he was playing for you when his days were done at Michigan?
It's been quite a few years ago, and I would have to say I didn't see that, but I didn't see that in many of our players. They were what we were looking for is in their performance, and obviously when they graduated, they went on to do their own thing. Brandon Naurato has come into this situation from a non-traditional background. He loved hockey, he loved the game. He only played a couple or 3 years in the minors, but then he got involved in hockey camps and hockey schools. And although he doesn't have the coaching resume that a lot of guys have when they get a job like this, he definitely has worked around good coaches and around good players. He's been a skill development guy for the Red Wings for a number of years, and then he became an assistant coach here for 1 year under Mel Pearson, and he started to, I think, understand the skill level of the college players as well, and then he's taken this team. So he knew this team, even though he wasn't the head coach a year ago. He knew this team and knew the kind of players they had, and I think he's done a great job of putting guys into roles that they can do well in.
Yeah, if you'd have asked me a long time ago, I would have put my money on Brendan Morrison. I mean, he seemed like you just talk with him off the ice. I mean, he, as a young guy, he just seemed like he was wise beyond his years. But you know what? Bill McCult also, I would have put some money on him. And, here he is on the staff. I wonder how difficult it is. You mentioned his resume a little bit there, but he didn't have any experience behind the bench in the pros or in college or anything. How tough is that? Like the first time that you're in there to go through that when, you're behind the bench and you've got to, you got to call the game on the ice.
Well, I think Brandon knew that he had a lot to learn, and I think everybody told him that, and he realized that as the season started. The one area that I thought he was really ready for was running practices and being organized and having his team all understand what we're doing and when we're doing it and how well we're doing it and so on. And then it was a matter of just figuring out, how to run the bench and so on. But he's got a lot of experience around him. Billy McCall essentially recruited most of those players, and so he knows the players too. And he's been there as a national champion, two-time winner with Michigan, and he's played in the NHL and so on. So Billy's a good support coach for Brandon, but Brandon still had to make the tough calls, and I think he's made them. And so it's been learning on the fly, so to speak. But I think he's getting more confident, more comfortable, and more respected from the inside of the locker room and the outside of the locker room. as the season wore on. So good for him and good for Michigan.
Yeah, a lot of good numbers. Good for Michigan being back in the Frozen Four. First back-to-back since 02, 03, 27th Frozen Four. That's a record in the NCAA. That's good. But what about the confidence that the team will have in their goaltender, Portillo? In these 4-1 in the NCAA, that's good. Those are good numbers. And I'll go back again to Penn State. He had to come up. There were two stops that he made. One, I couldn't see the puck. I don't know how he saw it. He ended up stopping it in the third period against Penn State. Another one looked like a breakaway they had to come up big on in a 1-goal game. With the Frozen Four on the line. How much confidence do you think this team will have in? I would say now their experienced goaltender.
Oh, I think they've got a ton of confidence in him, Dennis. Portillo he took them through a lot of tough games where Michigan maybe weren't at their best last year, and then again this year. Like when your goalie is the star of the game, when you're winning games, you wonder, well, that shouldn't be, but it has been time and time again for Portillo, and he's used to it. And if you knew the kid, he's a competitor and he's a battler, and he might look unorthodox from time to time, but he's a little bit like Dominic Hasek when he just finds a way to stop the puck no matter what, and it may not be pretty, but he's going to be in there. I think he'll be it will not be a weak link for Michigan. He's going to come up and give the team everything he's done.
I love it. You mentioned Fantilli a little bit earlier. Obviously, he's a great talent, plays with an edge. You said competitive with Portillo, and everybody will point to him and the freshman. I wonder. I was telling people Duke, Dylan Duke. He plays a style where it's one of those things that you need when you're you want to do things like in the postseason. You get a guy that will go into the in front of the net and have that front presence. And you were mentioning some pros. Thomas Holmstrom for the Red Wings, Dino Cicerelli from the Red Wings. Duke seems to have that. And for all the talk about analytics and everything else, this is a guy that's going to pay the price. Those are the kind of things. Do you see anybody else? And you agree with that about Duke, and they have a lot of these things that you look for, some of those markings for a team, that it probably got them in position like they are here tonight to take on Quinnipiac.
You're absolutely right. Like they have players like Dylan Duke. Duke scored the winning goal in Minnesota in that playoff championship game, and that's what he did. He went to the net. He was knocked down on his knees. He reached for the puck and reached around the goalie and slid it in the net. You can't practice those things. And Dylan Duke showed that, and that was the difference in that game. You saw Rutger McGroarty go in front of the net also in Minnesota and scored 2 goals by being literally in the crease or nearby the crease. And then he screened the goalie on the 3rd goal. So he was a factor in that game as well. And these are, now McGroarty's a freshman, Duke's a sophomore. But these guys will go to the net, and so does Adam Fantilli. Like he's a warrior, and I think he's kind of leading the way. That line of McGroarty and Fantilli and Brindley's a freshman as well, undrafted yet, and watch him because he'll be playing out there tonight. He's just got better and better since Christmas, and these guys they're fun to watch as well as they're game breakers. So those are the kind of players you hope. Now you know yourself in the playoffs, everything gets tighter and cut down, and you have less space, and guys are all over you. But Michigan's got a few game breakers, and if they can break free, they'll make a difference in the game.
Yeah, Brindley, a Florida native, he'd be a nice player to pick. Like if you were looking for a hot stick or something like that. Being in his home state. Well, the big question to me, Red, we certainly appreciate your time, is, with it being a high, I was looking at the temperature down there in Florida into the 90s. Like, you going to go to the pool before the game? Are you going to walk into the rink with flip-flops and a floppy hat? I mean, what's your approach here going into the game before 8:30
Dennis,
tonight?
my style. I'm a certain kind of guy.
Yeah.
And if it's important, I dress for the occasion. I'm not down here to walk on the beach to go fishing. I'd like to, but I'm more interested in the games. I'm here for hockey. I'm here for the Big Ten as well as Michigan. So I'm excited for both the games today, and I watched the Minnesota and BU game with a lot of interest, and then the Michigan Winnipeg game, and then the Hobie Baker tomorrow, and then of course the championship game on Saturday. So I'm here for the whole weekend, the event. There's no flip flop. I don't even own flip flops. There'll be no. I didn't even bring shorts down here. I'm here on a mission. So, and I hope our team is.
Well, that was a predictable response, but I liked it. I hope you have you could have a Big Ten final, you could have a Hobie Baker Award winner. I mean, you could have a great 3 days in Red. I hope you do. We appreciate your time. Enjoy it down there.
Well, Dennis, I've enjoyed the conversation, and I'm glad you're reaching out to all the Michigan people and reminding them about Michigan, about the Frozen Four, about the Big Ten conferences. Had an outstanding season this year, and so we're proud of all that, and we're wishing our team the best. And after that, it's up to Brandon Rado and the boys to bring it home.
Yep, they're flying. Now we just wait and see how it plays out. Red, enjoy the day, enjoy the weekend. All the best to you.
Thanks, Dennis.